These key points are crafted to reflect a Matthew Hussey-style motivational tone, equal parts insightful, grounded, and emotionally intelligent, with playful charm and a strong focus on self-respect and human behavior. There's a kind of eye contact that feels different. It's not the polite, surface-level kind people use in conversation out of social habit. It's deeper, more lingering. There's energy behind it, an intensity that feels like it's carrying unspoken words, unfiltered thoughts, and sometimes desire that hasn't yet found its way into language. When a man is thinking about you sexually, this kind of eye contact becomes one of the clearest, yet most easily missed signals. It often happens in those in-between moments. You catch him looking at you when you weren't saying anything particularly profound. You weren't performing. You weren't doing anything you'd think would grab that kind of attention. And yet, his eyes are locked on you. Not just observing, but absorbing, studying, tracing the outline of your mouth as you talk, noticing the way your eyes light up when you smile, watching you in a way that suggests there's more going on in his head than what he's letting on. That kind of gaze comes with weight. It's emotionally charged, and you can feel it. It's like he's seeing more than your words. He's seeing the possibility of closeness, the idea of physical connection. And for a moment, you may even feel like you're the only person in the room, because to him, in that moment, you probably are. This eye contact doesn't always come with a smooth line or some charming compliment. In fact, sometimes it makes him a little uncomfortable. It's involuntary. He might look away quickly once he realizes he's been staring, or he might hold it a little too long, creating a pause that feels more intimate than expected. He's revealing something without saying a word, and that vulnerability, whether he's conscious of it or not, is often a telltale sign. It's not about being creepy or calculated. It's not a stare that makes you feel unsafe or scrutinized. It's the opposite. It's a look that feels personal, like he's mentally undressing the situation, trying to figure out if you feel what he feels, if the chemistry is mutual, if the connection that's building in his head is something you might be thinking about too. The eyes are one of the only places we betray our inner world without meaning to. We can fake words, we can posture with body language, but the eyes, when they're filled with genuine sexual interest, don't lie. They speak louder than most flirtatious comments ever could. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that this intensity doesn't happen with just anyone. It's reserved, selective. It's the kind of look that says, I'm imagining something, and it involves you. And if he's thinking about you in that way, chances are that eye contact will tell you long before he ever dares to say it out loud. There's a moment when a man's interest in you shifts gears, and it often shows up in his body before it ever shows up in his words. You'll notice it not because he tells you he's attracted, but because something changes in how he carries himself around you. His posture, his movement, even his stillness, it all begins to communicate something he may not be consciously ready to admit, that he's thinking about you in a sexual way. Attraction has a way of breaking routine. A guy who was previously relaxed or casually engaged might suddenly start straightening up when you enter the room. His shoulders pull back, his chest expands slightly. It's as if his body is trying to take up more space around you, subtly but instinctively signaling confidence and masculinity. He may not even realize he's doing it, but he's posturing, and it's for you. Pay attention to how he moves. Does he lean in more when you speak? Is he closing the physical gap between you with little shifts, just a few inches closer than necessary? That's not accidental. That's desire finding a physical outlet. He may angle his body toward you even when he's talking to someone else, or he might mirror your gestures without thinking. These are subconscious cues, his body aligning with yours, syncing up in the quiet language of attraction. Sometimes it's not movement, but stillness that speaks volumes. When a man feels a strong physical pull towards someone, he can become more aware of his own body. He might stop fidgeting. He might seem frozen for a second too long when you brush past him or touch his arm. There's a kind of alertness that kicks in, like his body is tuned in, waiting, anticipating something more. He might also become more tactile, finding subtle excuses to initiate physical contact, a hand on your lower back to guide you through a crowded space, a brief touch on your arm during conversation. These gestures are small, but they carry a message. They create connection. And if he's doing them with a frequency or familiarity that feels a little more than friendly, it's often because his thoughts are going places his words haven't dared to go yet. Even his facial expressions can change. His jaw might tighten slightly when he looks at you. His eyes might narrow just a little, giving you that slow once-over that doesn't feel disrespectful. It feels hungry, focused, like his mind is preoccupied with thoughts that have nothing to do with whatever you're talking about. What's important to understand is that body language doesn't lie. It reacts faster than the mind can censor. When a man's thoughts shift toward physical desire, his body begins to express it before he's even aware he's doing it. It's not loud, it's not always obvious, but it's there. In the way he moves, in the way he stands, in the way he suddenly becomes more present, and yet somehow more exposed. When a man is thinking about you sexually, one of the clearest signals he gives, without even meaning to, is how he initiates casual touch. It's not bold or overt. It doesn't scream seduction. In fact, it often hides behind the veil of playfulness, helpfulness, or convenience. But make no mistake, his touches carry weight. They're his way of testing the physical boundary between you and him, without openly crossing it. You'll notice these touches often feel unnecessary, not inappropriate, not aggressive, but extra. Maybe he brushes your arm when you hand him something. Maybe he taps your knee when he laughs. Maybe he gives you a quick touch on the back when walking behind you. These moments are fleeting, and that's exactly the point. They're short enough to stay safe, but intentional enough to feel personal. And if you pay attention to the frequency, you'll realize they add up quickly. What's important to understand is that these small physical gestures are not random. When a man's mind is preoccupied with physical attraction, he begins to crave proximity, not just being near you, but making contact. It's not about full-on affection. It's about bridging the gap. He's looking for a way to connect in the smallest, safest way he can, and each touch is a little pulse of intimacy he's hoping you'll welcome, or at least not reject. The way he does it also reveals a lot. Some guys will be playful, giving you a teasing nudge, a high five that lingers a second too long, or a hand on your shoulder in a moment that doesn't really require one. Others will go the gentleman route, offering a hand to help you down a step, steadying you by the elbow, brushing lint off your clothing. The logic behind the touch doesn't matter. What matters is the intent underneath it. And that's the real key. Intent. If he's doing it more often with you than with others, it's not habit, it's desire. If his hand stays just a moment longer than necessary, if he waits to see how you react, if he seems slightly more charged after the touch than before, it means something. He's not just testing physical closeness, he's gauging whether you feel the chemistry too. There's also a kind of energy exchange that happens during these moments. A brief touch can say more than a paragraph. If you feel it, if you notice a little flutter, a warmth, a flicker of tension, it's because his touch carried emotion. Sexual attraction isn't always loud. It's often quiet, subtle, hidden in gestures that give him deniability, but still let him express what he's feeling beneath the surface. And the truth is, men don't touch casually when they're thinking platonically. Touch, for them, is often a bridge to something deeper. When a man finds excuses to touch you, even in innocent ways, it's because he's thinking about what it would be like if those touches weren't so casual. When a man is thinking about you sexually, his voice starts to reveal it, often before he even realizes what he's doing. It's not something scripted or strategic. In fact, most men don't know they're doing it, but the voice has a way of adapting to the emotions running underneath the surface. And when those emotions include desire, attraction, and fantasy, it shows up in how he speaks to you. You might notice he slows down. His words become more drawn out, deliberate. There's less rush to get to the point and more focus on the moment. It's as if he's trying to make every second of the interaction last longer. And in a way, he is. Because when a man is sexually attracted to someone, time around that person feels different, more vivid, more charged. So the way he speaks shifts to reflect that. He's not just communicating, he's savoring. His tone often drops as well. Not dramatically, but noticeably. The pitch becomes lower, smoother, softer. Why? Because a deeper voice subconsciously signals confidence and intimacy. It creates a sense of closeness. It makes things feel more private, more personal. He's not talking at you, he's talking to you, with a tone that feels like it's meant just for your ears. It's also more focused. The way he says your name, the way he responds to what you say, it feels more present, more tuned in. You can sense that he's not just casually throwing words into the air, he's placing them carefully. He might ask questions in a slower, more intentional way. He might pause more between thoughts, leaving little moments of silence that feel strangely intimate. That pause, it's often where the unspoken energy lives. It's where desire hides before it dares to come out. You may also notice a subtle shift in the rhythm of his voice depending on the topic. When you're joking or bantering, he might be quick and witty, but when the conversation gets more personal, when you're talking about your life, your relationships, your emotions, he slows down again, his voice softens, it drops into something more grounded. And in those moments, it's less about the words and more about how they're landing on you. He wants you to feel him, not just hear him. Sometimes the voice change isn't even intentional, it's reactive. Maybe you said something that sparked a thought or fantasy in his head, and suddenly his next sentence comes out differently. It's not what he says, but how. A little warmer, a little more vulnerable, a little more suggestive. And you'll feel the shift, because attraction has a sound. It lives in the pauses, in the inflection, in the tone that drops just enough to make your stomach flutter. His voice becomes an instrument for connection, and when he's thinking about you sexually, that connection starts to feel charged with something deeper, something he may not be ready to act on just yet, but can't help expressing all the same. When a man is thinking about you sexually, the way he compliments you begins to shift. It's not the typical surface-level praise, like telling you your dress is nice or that you're pretty. Those compliments are safe, generic, and often meant to be polite or socially acceptable. But when desire enters the picture, his words take on a different tone. They become more specific, more intimate, more loaded with subtext. He starts noticing details about you that most people overlook. Not because he's trying to impress you, but because he's paying that much more attention. He might mention the way your voice sounds when you laugh, the way your lips move when you talk. He might tell you there's something about your energy that's distracting, in a good way. These aren't compliments rooted in logic. They're rooted in chemistry. They reflect the parts of you that draw him in, magnetically, physically. There's also a vulnerability to how he says it, because sexual attraction, especially in its early stages, puts him slightly off balance. He might say something and immediately look at you for a reaction. He's testing the water. He wants to know, did you hear what I meant under what I said? Did you feel the compliment, not just receive it? And it's not always about what's typically sexy. Sometimes he'll compliment things that seem strange or unexpected, like the way you tilt your head, how you walk, or the scent you wear. That's when you know his compliments aren't filtered through social norms. They're coming from desire. They're personal, unique to you. He's not repeating a line he'd say to someone else. He's reacting to you, in the moment, with fascination. You'll also notice that these compliments often come with a certain tone. It's softer, slower, there's almost a hesitation, like he's trying to say something deeper without saying too much. And sometimes there's a little smile or a playful look that lets you know he's holding something back. Because what he really wants to say might be more direct, more revealing, more physical, but he's keeping it just shy of that line. This kind of complimenting is intimate not because of the words themselves, but because of what they suggest. When a man starts admiring the parts of you that feel close to your sensuality, your mouth, your skin, the way you carry yourself, it's a signal that he's no longer just seeing you as attractive. He's imagining something more, something physical, something shared. And even if he's subtle about it, you'll feel the difference. Because when a man is thinking about you sexually, he doesn't just compliment how you look. He compliments how you affect him, how you make him feel. And when his words begin to reflect his inner world like that, you're not just being flattered, you're being desired. When a man is thinking about you sexually, one of the most telling signs is that he starts seeking out alone time with you, intentionally and more often. It may not always be obvious at first. He doesn't need to say, "I want to be alone with you because I'm attracted to you." In fact, he probably won't. But the pattern reveals itself through small, repeated choices. He finds reasons to spend time with you that remove distractions, minimize company, and maximize intimacy, even if it's all happening under the surface. This kind of behavior is about proximity, but not just physical proximity. It's about emotional space. It's about having a moment with you where the energy isn't diluted by others, where the chemistry between you can breathe a little more freely. When he's sexually drawn to you, he craves the kind of space where that attraction can be felt, uninterrupted, unfiltered, and without an audience. He may start suggesting activities that naturally involve just the two of you, a coffee catch-up after work, a late-night walk, helping you run an errand that doesn't really require help. It's in these moments that the energy shifts. When he's alone with you, he's not performing. He's more open, more direct, sometimes even more nervous. And that vulnerability is often where sexual energy hides itself. Because when someone is turned on by you, there's a quiet tension they carry in your presence. He'll also be more present when you're alone. His focus sharpens. He listens more. He asks deeper questions. And he's more likely to flirt, subtly, playfully, or even through small suggestive comments that he wouldn't say if others were around. That privacy creates permission. He gets to explore a different side of the dynamic. One that's more emotionally charged, and yes, more physical in potential. And here's the key. He's not just inviting you into his space, he's creating space around you. When he walks into a room and sees you talking to someone else, he might wait for the right moment to pull you aside. When you're in a group, he finds little windows to peel you away for a few minutes. It's not always grand or dramatic. It can be as simple as walking you to your car, hanging back after an event, or texting you separately when a group chat is happening. The message is clear. I want time with you that's just ours. It's during alone time that his body language shifts, his compliments land differently, and the pauses in conversation start to carry more weight. It's where the dynamic begins to stretch into something unspoken but undeniably present. Because when a man is thinking about you sexually, being near you in a group isn't enough. He wants moments where the noise fades, the distractions disappear, and the space between you becomes something he can feel, and maybe eventually act on. When a man is thinking about you sexually, his sense of humor starts to evolve. His jokes and playful banter begin to carry a little more edge, a touch more spice, and a noticeable shift in tone. It's still wrapped in charm and humor, but if you listen closely, you'll hear what he's not quite saying directly. I'm imagining something more. Humor becomes his safe zone, a space where he can flirt with the idea of physical intimacy without fully putting himself out there. This kind of suggestive banter often starts subtle. He might joke about how dangerous you are in that outfit, or make playful remarks about what it would be like if the two of you were alone on a deserted island. These comments are designed to walk the line, provocative enough to spark a reaction, but vague enough to retreat from if needed. That's the beauty of humor in this context. It gives him plausible deniability. If you laugh or flirt back, he'll keep going. If you don't, he can quickly switch the subject and brush it off as just a joke. There's also a kind of testing going on beneath the surface. Through suggestive banter, he's watching your response closely. Do you smile? Do you tease him back? Do you get flustered? Your reaction tells him how far he can go and whether or not the chemistry is mutual. These jokes are a litmus test, a way for him to push the boundary without fully stepping over it. Sometimes the suggestiveness is layered in double meanings. He might use wordplay, sarcasm, or tease you about being a troublemaker or bad influence. Other times, it's in his tone and delivery. The way he draws out a word, lowers his voice during a punchline, or gives you a look that lingers just a little too long after he says something cheeky. It's all part of the performance. And even though it's playful, it's not empty. There's a pulse of desire underneath it. What separates this kind of banter from casual flirting is the emotional charge behind it. There's tension. It feels riskier, more intimate. You sense that the joke is only half of what he's actually feeling. It's the tip of the iceberg. He's not just trying to make you laugh, he's trying to stir something in you, a reaction, a spark, a moment where the laughter turns into something deeper. The most telling part, he doesn't do this kind of banter with everyone. It's reserved, specific, intentional. When a man's jokes start shifting from innocent to a little more suggestive, it means his mind has already taken a few mental steps toward intimacy. He may not be ready to speak those thoughts plainly, but he can't resist letting them leak out through wit, wordplay, and the occasional smirk that says, "You know exactly what I mean." When a man is thinking about you sexually, one of the most powerful signs isn't what he says or even what he does. It's how completely his attention locks onto you. Suddenly, you become the center of his focus in ways that feel intense, deliberate, and deeply personal. It's not just about physical attraction, it's about fascination. Something in you has pulled him in, and now, when you're in the room, it's as if the rest of the world starts to fade. You'll notice it in conversations, while others might get distracted mid-sentence, glance at their phones, or shift their attention to whoever is speaking the loudest. He's tuned into you. He listens differently, not just to your words, but to how you say them. He watches your facial expressions. He picks up on the subtle changes in your tone, your laugh, your pauses. He's absorbing you, not in a creepy or overwhelming way, but in a way that feels like he's genuinely captivated. This kind of focus often goes hand in hand with physical stillness. His body isn't restless when you speak. He's leaning in, making eye contact, giving you his full presence. He's not planning his next sentence while you talk. He's right there with you, moment to moment, and that intensity doesn't happen by accident. It happens because he's mentally and emotionally pulled toward you. He's not just engaging, he's imagining, he's feeling, he's reacting internally in a way he may not be ready to admit out loud. You'll also notice his reactions become more emotionally invested. He laughs harder at your jokes. He remembers little things you said in passing. He asks follow-up questions. If you're in a group setting, he finds ways to bring the conversation back to you. If someone else interrupts you, he gently redirects attention back your way. These are signs of someone who wants more than just surface-level connection. He wants you specifically, and his mind is already entertaining the idea of being closer. That intense attention also shows up in the way he watches you when you're not talking. You'll catch him glancing at you during moments of silence or when you're focused on something else, and if you look up and meet his eyes, he might smile or look away quickly because in that moment he wasn't just looking, he was thinking, possibly imagining, possibly wondering if you feel the same pull that he does. This kind of focused attention is hard to fake. It can't be sustained with someone you're not drawn to. And when it's rooted in physical and emotional desire, it's often relentless. He doesn't mean to stare. He doesn't mean to get lost in you. But he does, because you've stirred something in him that wants to connect, explore, and maybe even act on the attraction he's trying to keep cool on the outside. But the truth always leaks through where he focuses his energy. And in this case, all of it's on you. When a man is thinking about you sexually, he may not always express it directly, but his behavior begins to shift in ways that test the waters. One of the most telling signs is how he starts to subtly test boundaries. It's rarely obvious or crude. In fact, it often appears playful, charming, or curious. But underneath those small moments is a question he's quietly asking. How far can I go with you? These tests usually start with harmless banter. Maybe he makes a cheeky comment that hints at something suggestive just to see how you'll respond. Maybe he jokes about what it would be like to share a bed just for warmth, or throws out a hypothetical situation involving the two of you alone together. These aren't random thoughts, they're probes. He's looking for signs of openness, interest, or shared tension. The real key is that these behaviors don't exist in isolation. They're contextual. He might only joke that way with you. He might only get flirty when no one else is listening. That's because he's carefully crafting a space where these boundaries can be tested safely without risking too much vulnerability. And he's always watching your response. Do you smile, blush, play along, get quiet? How you react tells him everything he wants to know. Sometimes it's physical rather than verbal. He might sit a little closer than usual, reduce personal space inch by inch, or let his hand linger a bit longer after a casual touch. These small choices are intentional. They create a moment where something could happen, even if it doesn't. It's not about crossing the line. It's about finding out where the line even is. There's also a confidence in how he does it. He's not barging into anything, but he's not completely holding back either. There's a quiet risk in his actions, like he's flirting with danger, but doing it with a grin. This shows up in the way he teases, the way he makes light of certain topics, or the way he shifts conversations towards slightly more intimate territory without ever getting explicit. What makes this kind of behavior so telling is that it's driven by curiosity and desire. He wants to know how you feel about the tension he senses between you. He wants to understand whether you're just being friendly or if you're feeling it too. But rather than ask you directly, he lets the moment speak. He uses small provocations to gauge the atmosphere between you, giving you the chance to lean in or lean away. Men who are purely platonic rarely test boundaries this way. But when attraction is involved, especially sexual attraction, these small tests become part of the dance. He's not just flirting, he's exploring. And each time you engage, laugh, or let the moment linger, you're giving him a quiet answer, one that tells him whether to move closer or pull back. When a man is thinking about you sexually, one of the more surprising signs isn't bold or confident. It's nervousness. Yes, desire can make a man nervous. It can throw him off balance, make him second-guess his words, or act just a little bit differently than usual. Because when physical attraction is mixed with emotional curiosity or vulnerability, it doesn't always come out as charm. Sometimes it comes out as awkwardness, and that awkwardness is real. It's a sign he's out of his emotional comfort zone. This kind of nervous energy can show up in many small ways. Maybe he fidgets more when you're around, adjusting his sleeves, touching his face, or constantly shifting in his seat. Maybe he stumbles over his words slightly or starts a sentence and then quickly corrects himself. He might laugh a little too hard at your jokes or suddenly get quiet during moments that feel intimate. These aren't signs of disinterest. They're signs of a man whose mind is spinning faster than he can manage in real time. What makes him nervous isn't just your presence. It's what he's thinking when you're present. If he's fantasizing about being closer to you, if he's wondering whether the chemistry he feels is mutual, if he's aware of the way you look, move, or smile, then his body is already reacting. His heart might beat faster, his palms might get a little sweaty, his thoughts might race, and when all of that is happening behind the scenes, it becomes much harder for him to appear smooth and composed on the outside. Interestingly, you might notice that this nervousness isn't always consistent. He might be confident and relaxed around others, but as soon as it's just the two of you, something shifts. The eye contact becomes more intense, or he avoids it altogether. His voice might lower, or it might crack slightly. That contrast tells you something important. You affect him. He's not just talking to someone. He's experiencing something internal that he's trying not to show too obviously. Sometimes he might try to cover the nervousness with humor or over-talking. He'll make jokes, tease, or steer the conversation into lighter territory. Other times, he might go quiet, not because he's bored, but because he's afraid of saying the wrong thing or revealing too much. That silence, it's charged. It holds thoughts he's not ready to voice, especially if those thoughts involve wanting to be close to you in a more physical way. Men who are thinking purely platonically don't usually have this kind of tension. They're relaxed, easygoing, consistent. But when sexual attraction is involved, especially when he also respects or admires you, things get more complicated. That's where nervousness lives. In the push-pull of desire and restraint, in the unspoken thoughts he's not sure he's allowed to express yet. And if you catch him acting just a bit more awkward, more flustered, or more alert around you, it's probably not a coincidence. It's chemistry, quietly speaking through his nerves. He may not come out and say, "I'm thinking about you sexually," but his body, his energy, and his behavior will speak volumes. From the way his eye contact deepens, to how his voice softens and slows, to the way he finds excuses to touch you or spend time alone with you. These are not just random actions, they're signals that his thoughts are no longer just friendly, but charged with desire, curiosity, and longing. And here's the most important part. These behaviors reveal more than attraction. They reveal vulnerability. Because when a man is genuinely drawn to you, especially in a physical way, he's stepping into a space where rejection, connection, intimacy, and fantasy all live side by side. It's not just about lust. It's about how you affect him, how being around you changes his energy, his focus, and sometimes his ability to play it cool. So, if you're wondering where a man's mind is, pay attention to what's unsaid, the looks that linger, the compliments that cut a little deeper, the nervous tension, the casual touches, the humor that dances just on the edge of suggestive. These are the clues. And when you can read those clues with confidence, you gain power, not just to see what he's feeling, but to decide how you want to respond. Because attraction isn't just about being wanted. It's about knowing your worth, understanding the energy exchange between two people, and choosing connection that feels mutual, respectful, and real.